Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today I will be continuing doing my takedown general plot summary of this terrible book, Voices, by the late fraud Beatrice Sparks, who is not a psychologist, not a PhD. She didn't even graduate like any kind of college, not even with an associate's degree or a certificate in anything. It's like shocking to me that she got away with pretending all this stuff, and like no one like sniffed out her literary fraud for so many decades. But thankfully we finally know the truth, and this is just going to be, well, more or less like a little bit of my own opinions and stuff, but general in the interest of time and stuff. It's going to be mostly a plot summary of chapter 3. I will save the unpacking of the repulsive like homophobia and general overall like these scenarios don't add up part of the chapter for a whole separate video, taking down each of the 4 chapters and the follow-up some 2 years later, talking about like this. None of this makes sense. It's completely inconsistent. It's like totally unrealistic. They're just like over the top scenarios, like what the F is going on. And so anyway, this is going to be based off a blog post which will go live tomorrow, the 1st of September of 2025, and it's called, you know, like the part 3 of this whole series, like holy homophobia, Batman. This is so bad. I'm so glad this garbage book bombed so badly and did not have like that much of an impact, because like even by the late 70s people were not as homophobic as this like garbage fraud was. So anyway, chapter 3 of Dr. Fraud's 1978 garbage fest, Voices, yes, this is in all caps because she had a fetish of all caps, is among the most offensive, damaging things she ever wrote. She used the guise of a real-life teen's interview with her pretended questions conveniently omitted. That's going to be in the video, like unpacking all the general what the F is wrong with this, to spew as much homophobia as she could pack into 25 pages. Slurs, stereotypes, like slanders, like you name it. Like for obvious reasons, I'm not really gonna give details or use the actual like worst words in this video. It just made me so angry reading this crap, and I'm not even like lesbian myself. This book rightfully bombed, and the few critical reviews called out the disgusting homophobia among all the other issues with this crap, and like all the other chapters as well. Even in 1978, Dr. Fraud's views were out of touch with the mainstream, and by this point in history, of course, lots of people were unfortunately, still closeted, and the whole AIDS epidemic was only a few years in coming. That really set back a lot of the progress that had been made. But like by the late 70s, people, well, not everyone, but more and more people, they were slowly starting to realize, hey, gays and lesbians, they're just like we are. We can't really tell if someone is, and they're like normal, nice people. We shouldn't really like discriminate against them or assume they're terrible predators lurking in the bushes. It also needs mentioned that sexual predation on minors isn't about sexual orientation, which many people falsely believe, but the sickness of pedophilia, as it says near the end of the famous Bicycle Man episode of Different Strokes. And that was like really groundbreaking for the time. I know it's like fun to rip on very special episodes these days, but back then most people weren't really talking or knowing about these issues. And it was really, really important to put that out there. Like Willis says, I never realized he was, gay. And the cop says, oh, no, son, this isn't about like being gay or straight. This is a sickness these perverts have in their head. It's not at all about like the sexual orientation. It's like feeling sick attraction towards a child, regardless of like what sex the child is or what sex the offender is. And I'm going to get into that more in the overall takedown chapter. And it is also beyond, to repeat a word thrice as she likes to do, rare for women to do this kind of abuse. I know a lot of like MRAs and like, self-hating women are like, oh, women abuse too. Yeah, like in a tiny minority. Like the vast, like, criminal pattern is for men to do this kind of thing. But again, getting ahead of myself for a future video. Millie had a happy, idyllic life with her mamakins and daddykins until, this is coming, her parents get, oh no, divorced when she's in 3rd grade. Because this is a Dr. Fraud book. Of course, Millie completely falls apart, blaming herself, bawling her eyes out. Oh, no, Mama, I'm Dada can't get divorced. Families are supposed to be forever. We can't be sealed for all time and eternity if there's a divorce. Having nightmares, begging mommy and daddy to stay together, unable to believe they could want to split up and start new lives independent of one another, or that they're actually like happy when they get divorced and it's no big deal to them. Yeah, chick, because it's not your freaking relationship. Your parents, there must have been something going wrong in their lives to want a divorce. Like Dr. Fraud, she just could not fathom the idea that some relationships, they just don't work for whatever valid reasons, and sometimes people are better off like splitting up than like staying together. But oh, she had so much unresolved trauma from her parents' divorce. Millie is such a drama queen. She smashes and cuts her entire cherished doll collection into tiny pieces to represent the destruction of her family and make mommy and daddy feel like she does. Like, seriously, get that kid into therapy. Mommykin starts dating again, and one of her boyfriends, who's stoned at the time, got to check off so many boxes, molests Millie. At first, Millie says Mommy was dating lots of different guys, then a few paragraphs later clarifies it was only about 4 or 5, and apologizes for making her precious, precious, precious Mommykins sound like the great whore of Babylon. Millie then says they were all so gross, then walks back to, oh, this guy was a doctor and he, like, he was a widower and had great, like, adult kids. And this guy was a DJ and this other guy was a lawyer. They had great careers and mommy dated him for, like, 3 or 4 years. Oh, I'm sorry I was saying bad things about precious ma. The Mommykins worship in these books is off the charts. Laughably, Millie says when she was about 12, she talked to Mommy about sex and wanted Mommy to entreat her to be clean and pure. Yeah, that language all 12-year-olds use. No real preteen thinks or talks like that unless someone put that idea in her head. I wonder where, given the author's religious background. Seems like Dr. Fraud drew on memories of the Mormon young women's Sunday school lectures about not letting herself become a licked cupcake or chewed up gum no decent man would want. And from what I was understanding, doing a little bit of more research for this article, well, things are slow to change in religious institutions, particularly very conservative ones, but apparently it's no longer really like official policy for Mormon young men and young women's lectures to tell them, oh, you're a licked cupcake and chewed up gum, and they have like similar lessons for the boys. Oh, no one will want you if you're not a virgin by the time you're married. So they're not really officially, allegedly supposed to be doing that, but many churches and wards are still continuing the, ew, gross, licked cupcake, lick all the frosting off. You're the last one. Do you want to eat this cupcake everyone else licked or the gum everyone else had in their mouth? No, of course not. That's why you should be a virgin on pain of death. So like the whole Mormon purity, chastity culture, it's still going strong. And she was definitely drawing on that. No real teen, like, I want to be clean and pure. Like, even if she might want to be like a virgin for like her own personal reasons, that's probably not how any normal adolescent is going to express those like views. Or I cannot understand her mind. Jake, the one who molested Millie, also beat up Mommy, and one day Millie walked in on him doing it. She loved amping up that drama. After Mommy sobers up, she wants to unalive Jake too, and Millie and Mommy ball, cuddle, and rock back and forth together. Way, my precious mama. This is a trope in all of her stories. We fell into each other's arms like lost little kittens. We clung to each other like Hansel and Gretel. Oh, Mama and I cuddled and rocked for hours, and it felt so good. Mommy was treating me like a little baby again. Oh, precious mama. Since Dr. Fraud was so out of touch with how modern schools are structured, Millie starts junior high at 13 and is still in it at 15. The jocks are constantly sexually harassing girls in the hallways, though Millie largely escapes because she hasn't developed very much. Bizarrely, Dr. Fraud uses the childish term bottoms in the same sentence as the vulgar titty. Like, what the F is that all about? It's like using the word piss for urination, but saying make for defecation. Like, can't you be consistent with the kinds of like language you're using? And I'm even shocked she used that word beginning with the letter T. Normally she's a little bit more prudish in her book. She doesn't like go beyond F-bombs she not very often, but like she's like, oh, I was praying and counseling with the bishop Bishop, and Bishop told me, oh, it's okay, you're doing it for the kids, Beatrice. Like, you can use curse words if you help them, but don't use too strong curse words. You'll have to confess that in the next worthiness interview. After Christmas, Millie's typing teacher, Mrs. Stevens, who's getting a divorce, oh, but not for the same reason as Mommykins, starts asking her to stay after school to help with the yearbook, and they become fast friends. Mrs. Stevens takes her to dinner when they work late and even takes her skiing. Like that's not setting off any red flags. Soon, Millie is calling her Faye, and they're constantly hanging out together. Faye fills the motherly gap left by Mommykins, and Millie feels very feminine and important. Like, what? When Faye brushes her hair and scratches her back? Like, wow, what's going on in the Mordor? She warns Millie not to let on their secret at school, or she'll be seen as a teacher's pet. Because the teens in Beatrice Sparks' world think hanging out with adults is super cool and fun, the whole mommy for the win. Millie is thrilled to be told she really is the teacher's pet and thinks all the other kids would be jealous if they knew. Millie is soon spending more time with Faye than she does in her own home. She even gets a key to the apartment. Millie makes up excuses for why she's out so late and always coming home just before dinner, but Mommy doesn't really mind. Mommy is too busy with her new beau and work responsibilities, particularly since she just got promoted again, pushing the whole, Mommy should never work outside the home, like, well, they shouldn't get divorced from the jump, but if they do, like, don't work outside the home, you're too much work and too high a position. You're neglecting your mommy responsibilities. Oh, terrible, terrible, unfeminine. Millie spends a weekend with Faye while Mommy is away in New York on business and feels like it's Christmas again in February. Like, Faye packs the fridge with the food she likes, gets her a whole ton of candy, so many like things they watch on the TV together. Like, oh, having a fun sleepover with the teacher, said every 12, 13-year-old ever. During this visit, Faye amps up the grooming, which already skipped lots of steps because Dr. Fraud could never be arsed to develop realistic storylines over longer time frames. It makes Millie feel even more special, loved, and important. Faye begins doing sexual things with Millie, like jumping right from 0 to 60, including using a vibrator. That is abuse. It is, again, like I said at the beginning, this is not about sexual orientation. It's about a sickness in the mind, like an adult feeling attraction and wanting to do such perverted things to minors. And Millie tosses out a homophobic stereotype about how most gays and lesbians have one-night stands and find hookups in places like gas station bathrooms. Like, really, Dr. Fraud? For the rest of the year, Faye regularly commits a statutory rape. Mommy is thrilled Millie's grades are good and that she's not doping or bed hopping. Like, isn't that just what any normal parent would expect of a 13-year-old? What kind of town are they living in where that's supposedly like normal behavior? And later on, when she's like living by Daddy and getting good grades again, like, Daddy and Mommy are thrilled I wasn't doping or boy bedding. Like, who said boy bedding? Like, in the 70s or any decade, it was laughable how she was trying to portray herself as some cool, fun, hip, tough street kid when she's really a 60-year-old ultra-conservative Mormon housewife. She was so out of touch with modern slang. Daddy takes her to football games and other places she doesn't like just to show her off like a toy. Again, with the whole, the parent is out of touch. She doesn't care what's happening to her. See, this is what happens when they work too hard and get divorced instead of being home all the time. Once Millie gives a broad, yes, she actually uses the word broad for a woman Daddy is dating, a little soul kiss. I don't know if that a euphemism or a French kiss, sensing she's bi or lesbian, or as she calls it, a switch hitter. And the broad hugs Millie tightly and tells Daddy, I do think I'm going to like your little girl a whole lot. That's so many red flags. It's beyond like creepy. And again, the parents, this is very concerning situation is happening right in front of my eyes, but I'm not seeing it as concerning because I'm so busy with work and dating other people. And again, by the late 70s, like, how many people, particularly teenagers, actually were calling women like broads or dames like they did like 20, like 30 years earlier? That's like so freaking out of touch. Like, again, like you're supposed to do research on the kind of like character you're writing, what kind of language was common. But again, nope, I'm the 60-year-old housewife pretending I'm a tough street kid. Things start falling apart when Faye suggests Millie bring her 12-year-old friend Laurie into their relationship. She's not really sure. Does she want Laurie for sex, or is it just to have like a friend to hang around? But I don't want to like trust the worst might not happen. Millie is jealous Faye might like Laurie more, and she doesn't want that, since Faye is the person she loves and trusts most, and her relationship with Mommykins has become very antagonistic. Millie stays by Daddy the first month of summer vacation. It was supposed to be only 2 weeks, but it's extended to 4, and she begs him to take her to her shrink. He refuses, saying she couldn't possibly need that kind of help compared to parents these days. A lot of them, particularly the upper class yuppies or the not the hippies, what are they hipsters, I guess is a modern phrase, talk about being out of touch with language. They have their kids in therapy from the time they're in kindergarten, according to the popular stereotype. Daddy also says everyone experiments with sex at her age, even with the opposite sex, and tells her about his and his friends' own sissy experiences. Again with the homophobia. That night, Millie tries and fails to unalive herself with Daddy's sleeping pills, like she doesn't take enough of them, or maybe they're expired, she doesn't know. When she begs him not to send her back to Mommykins, he lectures her about self-discipline and buys her like self-help books. Again, the cartoonish cardboard cutout of a parent. Oh, the very troubling situation is escalating right in front of my eyes, but I'm just going to ignore it and pretend it can be helpfully solved by positive thought. But this is kind of hypocritical, because like in her other books, she is all about, the positive power of positive thinking. You can think your way out of a serious mental health crisis. Again, like a lack of consistency. Upon Millie's return to Mommykins in Denver, she discovers Faye has been regularly calling and even came by for a long talk. Yeah, what parent would think that's totally normal? Millie screams that she never wants to see that HOMO whore ever again, but Mommy laughs, refuses to believe her, and sends her to her room. Faye keeps calling and sending gifts, more red flags, and Millie finds it hard to resist getting back into a relationship, since she's already been into the sex scene real good. I'm not even going to get into that here, and is now horny all the time. Like, none of this reads like a real story. I'm just blown away. Mommy is disgusted when Millie tries to talk to her about gay people and doesn't want to hear any of it. Mommy utters some vile homophobic slurs, stereotypes, and slanders of her own. Like, gotta lay it on nice and thick, Dr. Fraud. Millie eventually starts meeting with Faye again, and Faye finds out from Mommy the days, times, and places she rides her bike. Yeah, that's not all concerning. If I had a child, I would have so many questions for a teacher. Like, why do you want to know my child's exact schedule? Why are you calling and sending gifts all the time? Why did you come by and have a long talk with me? Why do you want to hang out with my child, particularly alone? Like, maybe I'm going to check your hard drive or ask people, like, is there something I should know about you? One day, Faye apologizes for getting her into something she didn't like, feel ready for, or felt guilty about, and says she hopes they can still be buddies. On Millie's 14th birthday, they resume their relationship. Millie also starts using drugs, because this is a Dr. Fraud book. Mommy finds out about the doping and sends Millie off to Daddy to get her away from that bad influence. At her new private school, the Lizzie set, she constantly calls lesbians Lizzies. Was that a real slang term in the 70s? I mean, I know Leslie is a popular like slur, but like Lizzie, was that really a thing in the 70s? And so anyway, the Lizzie set immediately sniffs out Millie, and she becomes well established in the local gay community. We're talking about a 14-year-old, and this is also a great big contradiction. She says she was well established in the gay community by the time she was 14. Just a few pages later, she talks about getting back together with Faye on her 14th birthday. So can't you keep track of your own character's age? And I'm going to get into the whole like, I'm well established in the gay community when I'm just a junior high student in the future video. Dr. Fraud repeats the homophobic stereotype about getting hookups in gas station bathrooms and whole, like, decoded messages and stuff like that, and phone numbers. In autumn, Millie starts her last year of junior high at a public school. Again, what was Dr. Fraud thinking of as junior high? It really sounds like she thought it was grades like 8 through 10 or 7 through 10, not the normal 7 and 8 that it had largely become in most places in America by the late 70s. And so at this new public school, she's subject to lots of homophobic bullying. In response, Millie begins cutting school and staying home all day. She takes phone calls explaining why she's allegedly pretended sick and intercepting mail from the school. Eventually, she's driven back to cruising for hookups in phone books and bathrooms. One Sunday, she hears a minister on TV preaching against same-sex attraction and is instantly cured of her situational lesbianism. And I wouldn't even call this situational, like lesbianism if it happened in real life. This is like she was abused, and yes, many children who are abused, they sadly go on to become hypersexual as teens and adults. But again, none of this is like adding up. Like, so what if she had been abused by a male teacher? Are we supposed to believe she would become like super duper horny and nympho with all the guys in town? Or is this only, oh, because she was abused by a lesbian teacher, now she's into lesbianism? Like, if that's not your attraction, like, why would you go on to do it on your own? But again, I'm getting ahead of myself for that future video. Daddy finally relents and takes her to a shrink who, like Dr. Fraud, speeds through therapy and helps her to dump that whole gagging load of gagging garbage, one of her favorite phrases. The garbage comes flowing back when he says she should have sex with him to compare it against lesbian sex. Yeah, that's not like a huge red flag all over the place. Millie runs screaming, hoping she'll be locked up in the nut house so people will protect her, like, feed her and clothe her and stuff and not let her be hurt. Hours later, a cop leads her home and Daddy hides his razor and pills. Millie tries and fails to hang herself with hose. The shrink tells Daddy she's very sick, and Millie stays silent about the sexual harassment because she's convinced Daddy won't believe her. Daddy sends her to her unwritten Mormon grandparents in Nebraska, were mentioned earlier, and Millie loves their weekly home night every Monday evening. That immediately set off my Mormon detection radar. Dr. Fraud was itching to call it by its real name, Family Home Evening, which is every Monday evening in the Mormon church. The chapter ends with Millie happily talking about her wholesome and very innocent, laughably naive new friends and unleashing more homophobic slanders, stereotypes, and slurs. Dr. Fraud, you suck. I'm just so lost for words. This chapter was absolute garbage. Nothing about it rang real. It's so many different issues. This girl was abused. This is not about actually being a lesbian. And unless it was one of those blink and you missed it moments, I fail to see any point in this chapter when she runs away. And this book is supposed to be about 4 teen runaways. Was it because she was running around the halls and the psychiatric, the psychotherapy practice? But that wasn't running away. Or because she was cutting school and staying home. But she's living by Daddy. That's not running away, because going back and forth between the houses, where was there any running away in this chapter? She could not be consistent with anything. And thankfully I only have 2 more chapters left. The next up is Jane, the price of peer pressure, with lots more underage sex going on, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be drugs in that chapter too. Dr. Fraud. And then the 2 years later catch-ups with all the 4 teens, or lots of info dumpy stuff like that, and more inaccurate information about everything she covered in this book. And I will have the future video taking apart why none of these scenarios are believable. She just packs in so much drama that could not happen to one person in the very short time frame. Or this isn't adding up, being indoctrinated into a cult or sexually groomed for an inappropriate relationship by an adult. That doesn't take all of 2 months. You don't jump right from someone talks to you about Jesus on the bus and then you're joining a cult right away that very same day, and you're deprived of food, drink, in the bathroom, or even moving around at all from the same position for the next 3 days while they lecture you about the cult beliefs. You're skipping so many steps, and I just cannot wait to rip it apart in even more detail beyond the plot summary. So thanks again. I'm very much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye.